Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Archibald Gordon, and I'm Director of Marketing and Communications here at the Caribbean Maritime University. And I am really very much delighted to be welcoming you to the first session of the Getting Ready series entitled From Applicant to Student, Navigating the Caribbean Maritime University Process. Apart from you this morning, we have representatives of the Office of Student Affairs, Office of Administration / University Registrar. We have representatives of the Accounts Department from faculty. We have members of the Marketing Department, as well as other units here at the Caribbean Maritime University. And today is all about you. It's all about giving you information that helps you get ready for the journey here at the Caribbean Maritime University. So we expect it to be short and sweet. So first, in terms of what's going to be happening this morning, we're going to be having a short presentation from Miss Yolande Morris. She's Academic and Enrollment Officer in the Office of Administration / University Registrar. And then we're going to be opening the floor to ask questions. And we encourage you to ask every single question that you need to ask. Anything that you need to know, anything you need to understand. As I said, we have various representatives from various departments here at the Caribbean Maritime University, and they're here to answer all of the different kinds of questions that you ask and that you have. One of the things I want to make clear is that very often, because we're in an instantaneous culture where we are contacting people via many different platforms, you may be someone who uses TikTok vis-a-vis someone who uses Instagram, vis-a-vis someone who uses Facebook. And because of that, people are contacting us on a lot of different platforms, and the sheer volume of responses, of contacts that people are asking is difficult to manage all of those responses. So that's one of the reasons we've arranged this Getting Ready series, to give you a face-to-face opportunity to ask all of the questions that you have. So right after the presentation, we're going to be opening the floor, and any question, even if it is not in relation to the presentation, you can ask that question, get the answers that you need. And this will not be the only session. I'll tell you a little bit later on some of the other sessions that we intend to have over this period. So again, welcome to edition number 1, episode number 1 of the Getting Ready series. And I'm going to be handing over now to Ms. Yolande Morris for her presentation. And then I will be back to open the floor for questions. And of course, you can use anything. You can use the raise hand feature to ask questions. You can type questions in the chat. There are representatives from different units who can respond to your questions as you go along. If there's anything that Ms. Morris is saying and you don't understand or you want clarity, put it in the chat. And you can also later on, use the raise hand feature, open up your microphone and just say, I have a question. So without further ado, over to Ms. Morris. Yolande?
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Good morning, everyone. I want to extend a warm welcome to the Caribbean Maritime University. My name is Yolande Morris, one of the Academic Enrollment Officers within the Registry Department, and welcome to session 1 of the Getting Ready series. Today's presentation will be talking about the types of acceptance, application process, registration, scholarship, and bursaries, what to bring for registration, orientation, and the university essentials. So there are 5 types of acceptance. So we're going to talk about the types of acceptance. So you have full acceptance, provisional acceptance, conditional acceptance, advanced placement, and mature entry. So now we're going to go a little bit more in depth in the types of acceptance. So the first one, we'll be talking about the full acceptance. And this is where the applicants would have met all the entry requirements for their chosen program. All right. So once you have met all the entry requirements, you will receive a full acceptance. Then we move on to conditional acceptance. Conditional acceptance is granted to applicants who have at least 5 CSEC subject or equivalent. However, they do not have one of the mandatory subjects, which are mathematics or English language. Applicants who are conditionally accepted will be required to sign a conditional admission agreement form. Once you sign that form, that form will be returned to us, and then you'll receive your acceptance package. So for the conditional admission agreement form, it is important to note that you should download the form, then you print the form and sign with a pen. So on page 1, you're required to fill in the date, that is the day, month, year at the top, and then you're required to write your initials at the bottom. And on page 2, you're required to write your full name and your signature. All right, and then now we move on to provisional acceptance. And this is for applicants who are currently completing subjects and they are awaiting their results, such as their CSEC results, City and Guilds, CAPE, etc. It is important to note that once an applicant receives a provisional acceptance letter, it is not an official acceptance. All right, so the official acceptance is granted once the applicants would have then furnished us with the results from their subject that they would have been completed, and then they would have met the requirements. So once they would have met the requirement, then they will be issued their official acceptance letter. All right, so then we move on to the advanced placement. And this is for applicants who completed prior learning from other institutions or university, and they are seeking admission to year 2 or a higher level for their program of choice. All right, so it is important that they submit a official transcript, and in some instances, a course outline may be needed for further assessment. Then we move on to the last type of acceptance, which is the mature entry. And this is for applicants who are over the age of 25, who may not meet the regular entry requirements, but they have over 5 years experience in their related working field in regards to the program of their choice. So these applicants are required to complete and submit a mature entry portfolio, and then they're required to do an interview. Okay? And then now we will move to the stages of the application process. So many of you would have been familiar with the application, although some persons may think that they have submitted their application, however, their application is in draft. What is draft? So draft can be one, when the application is incomplete. This means that the applicant would not have filled out the required field, they may not have attached the required documents, or 2, they may have completed all that is required, they may have attached all documents that are required, however, they have not proceeded to the review stage. So reviewed is the next stage of the application. And this is where your applicants check to ensure that all required sections are completed. So once all required sections are completed, then you move on to the submitted stage. And this is where the applicant would click the submit application button, and then the university will be in receipt of the application so that we can review and start processing your application. All right, so when your application is at submitted, then they can be placed in 3 stages. Okay, so the first stage is pending, and this is when the applicants have not submitted all the required documents. So we will put your application in a pending status and request the required document. Then we have The other stage is the wait list. So the wait list is where you're placed in a wait list because you would not have met the entry requirement for the program of your selection, and your application is being reviewed for alternative options. So we put your application in a waitlist status. And the last stage is validated. So this involves reviewing and confirming applicants' information and updated documents. So we basically verify all the information that you would have provided on the application, along with all the documents that you'd have provided, and then we complete the validation process. Okay, and then we move to the other stage, which is accepted. So once you would have met the entry requirement, then you'll be accepted, whether you receive a provisional acceptance, a full acceptance, mature entry, acceptance, advanced placement, or conditional acceptance. All right. And then we move to the last stage of the application process, which is in admission processing. And this is where applicants receive their official acceptance package. So they receive their acceptance letter along with all the vital documents that are needed. It is important to note that applicants who receive a provisional acceptance, they are not placed in admission processing because they would have needed to furnish us with the adequate subjects to meet the requirement to be then receive their acceptance and then be placed in admission processing. Okay, now we have completed the application process. We will now move to registration. Okay, so the early registration will commence on May 26th to 28th on the main campus from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And at the Montego Bay campus, it will be on May 29 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. It is important to note that if you're unable to attend on one of the early registration dates, that you can attend the registration that will be held in August. And now we'll speak about the registration sessions in August. So for the main campus, the registration will be held on August 10th to 12th and the 24th to the 26th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. On the Montego Bay campus, it will be held August 21st and September 4th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And at Monique campus, it will be held on September 8th and 10th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. All right, so we move on to what is needed for registration. So students must submit all required original supporting documents to be able to pre-register. It is important to note that if you do not have all the required documents, that you will not be allowed to pre-register, and you will need to reschedule your appointments for another time. So we'll now speak about the original supporting documents that are needed to be submitted on the day of registration. So across all programs, you're required to have one passport size photograph, which is notarized by a JP, a birth certificate, your original certificates, educational certificates, and professional certificates, if applicable, transcript, if applicable. For the recommendation, it is only required for applicants who are doing the Bachelor's in Security Administration Management, who are part of the Faculty of Marine and Nautical Studies, and who are completing the master's program to submit two recommendations. These recommendations must be signed and stamped or placed on an official company letterhead. Then we move on to your TRN or Jamaican driver's license, and that is for all students. The passport is only required for marine and international students. The students are required to submit a medical form. The police record is only required for the marine students. And for all students, they're required to complete the job consent form and the confirmation of acceptance that would have been sent in their package and in their email. Okay, so we are now moving on to an important aspect of this presentation, which is the scholarship and bursaries. So just to give you an overview of the different scholarship that the university have, we have the American Caribbean Maritime Foundation, which is the ACMF, the Organization of American States, which is OAS, Accelerate Energy, which was formerly known as New Fortress, Caribbean Shipping Association, Monica Silvera, Embassy of the People's Republic of China, Millennial Paving Stones, Michael Silvera, Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And there are other scholarships that the university now has available, and you will hear more in session 2, where they will go more in depth in the type of scholarship that we have available. This session is scheduled on May 21st, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. and these details will be available in your email. So we're going to talk now about orientation. The CMU orientation is a requirement for all our new students. All orientation sessions will be held on the CMU campus and will be streamed via YouTube and Microsoft Teams. Streaming information will be sent via email, except for the resident students orientation. So we'll be talking about the orientation dates. On Sunday, August 30th, 2026, they will have the celebration service from 10 a.m. to 12. Then they will have the parent, guardian, and spouse orientation from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Then lastly, they will have the resident student orientation that will be held from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at Admiralty Dormitory. Then we move on to Monday, August 31st, 2026, for the orientation opening exercise from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then we move on to Tuesday, September 1st, 2026. They will have students will be able to meet with your faculty. So they'll have faculty and academic advising from 9 a.m. to 12. And then they'll have the student union liming session from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And it is important to note the dress code. So students are required to wear their uniform. If you do not have your uniform as yet, you can wear a white dress shirt and black bottom, no sneakers or jeans. Lastly, we will speak about some of the university essentials. So we have our class schedule, which will be available on the university website. We'll talk about the academic advising session, which is coming up in the orientation session September 1st. And these updates will be provided in your email. Then we talk about the sports clubs and society. Further information will also be provided on orientation and pre-registration. Then now we talk about counseling, and there will be an interactive session held on June 4th, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's advised that all be in attendance. All of these details will be sent via your email. And lastly, we'll talk about the dress code and code of conduct. And this session will be held May 28, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.